If you want to see if you're a brave person, wait when things go completely to pieces, when things are the worst, when your very best deal falls apart and your rent is late and you're tired and you're sick and everybody is mad at you and your car doesn't work. Then it's the person that picks themselves up and says, nothing is going to stop me. Develop the quality of being unstoppable. Say in yourself that no matter what life throws at me, it'll never stop me. No matter how rough it gets, I will never quit, and nothing will ever stop me. Make the decision that you can be tired, you can be worn out, but nothing is ever going to stop you. It's a wonderful feeling. It's the basis of self-esteem.
Hey, Shalom. Praises to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem Rakakodashe, much mercy to you sincere brothers, the true house of David. All you brothers that can really understand the new covenant, not just teaching it and not just mimicking without understanding. All you brothers, peace and mercy to all you brothers that are really understanding it. And all you guys out there, you brothers that are bringing confusion, and all you guys out there that don't totally understand the new covenant, what you're doing is, without you fully understanding it or fully being of it, you're bringing confusion into it. Because it specifically shows you that the old covenant is the ministration of death. So when you go all through Romans, Paul, that's why the scriptures say Paul's writings is hard to understand if you're of the flesh. So Paul understood, Paul understood what it was, what the old ministration was about and what Yahweh Shai was about. He understood that there was totally two different things. So I broke down Romans 8 a couple of days ago, and if you're carnal, you're trying to figure out a reason for you to keep the old because you're of the old. That is the only reason why you're defending trying to keep the old covenant, which you could keep the old covenant. It just don't have no justification in it. We don't have to keep that. Guys that are pushing you to keep the old covenant, they're of the old covenant, trying to bring you back in the mind frame of keeping you in bondage. That's what Paul talks about when he talks about bondage. So what we're seeing in this time is that guys are not of the new covenant. They don't totally have the full understanding of it, and they need to go study, or it's just that a lot of guys are just not of it. This is what you got to understand. There's so many allegories in the New Testament, and we've been bringing them out that show you that the old covenant is not of the new. I heard one reprobate say that the new covenant is an extension of the old. Like they trying to say it in a sense like it's the same as the old. No, it's not. The new covenant is the new covenant. The new covenant is the laws of the spirit. The old covenant is the laws of the flesh. So Romans, the 8th chapter, it lines up beautifully. Romans 9, man, all the scriptures. So just like I want to go into John 10, but I want to read Romans 7, and then I think I might come back and break down Romans 7, Romans 3, Romans 2. It's a lot of chapters I want to go over, because when you break it down correctly, you will clearly see that the old covenant has nothing to do with the new. And what Paul was referring to when he was speaking in Romans was the two covenants, just like he was referring to that in Galatians. So if you're not of the Lord, really, and you can't really see this, you will not understand what Paul is saying. A lot of you guys are bringing confusion, and a lot of you guys, because you're trying to bring men and try to make it seem like you have to keep the old, and you have to, there's nothing about the old. The new covenant is in a certain men that are of the new. All right. That's why it's called the new covenant. The new laws of Yahweh Shai are in men, not the old laws of Moses. It's crazy. The old laws of Moses, the new law was established at the cross. So now guys that are in that old covenant spirit in this time, the bulk of them in these camps, a lot of them have crept into this new covenant, not fully understanding the new covenant. And they're calling us all types of names and every idle word that you guys are saying. because we have the understanding. That's why we teach like we do, because we understand, because we are actually of it. A lot of you guys, you crept into this not fully understanding it. And what you're doing is, because you don't understand it, you can't understand that Paul called the old ministration the ministration of death. That's what it is. The ministration of condemnation is the administration of sin and death. So what we're seeing is the line has been drawn, and this is the final separation, because a lot of you guys too, what we're seeing is that a lot of guys really can't see what this is. And when the Lord said don't mix the old with the new, that's what the Lord meant. Don't mix the old garments with the new. Meaning that this new covenant it is its own thing, and you can't mix it. Now if you need to go back to the carnal laws and refer to them, that's fine. But long as you're of the new, those old laws don't have no dominion over you anymore. As far as for the elect. Now, for the 2/3 of our people, which the Lord cut off, they won't understand that, because they're of the old. So they feel like that you're teaching against the old laws of Moses, when in reality, them laws have no power or no dominion over the ones that are actually of the new covenant. So we got to understand that 2 parts of our people have been cut off. And so in this time, that new covenant, it is only it's not for everybody. It's only for a few. And just like what's happened, the majority of guys that's teaching the new covenant now, they're not even of it, because they really don't understand it. They're carnal. They're trying to figure out a way so they can keep their garments on and keep being seen in the streets. That's what they're trying to use the new covenant for, to justify them in the flesh. So they're trying to make it seem like you got to keep the new covenant by keeping the old too. It don't go like that. It don't go like that. Let me read this before we get into John 10. I want to read this. Yeah, a lot of you guys just ain't going to get it. It ain't for you to get. And when you understand that it wasn't for you to get it, it'll be too late then. Because what you're doing is really the spirit that we're in. A lot of guys, they're like borderline blaspheming, because they're saying, well, we're teaching we supposed to keep the old law of Moses too. No, we're telling you that you could keep the old law of Moses, but those high holy days and those things that you think mean something, they have no justification under the new. So all through Romans, Paul is likening the old covenant into the way of the flesh and the way of the death. The new covenant is the way of life. That is the bigger picture and the bigger understanding, which I broke down beautifully, which a lot of guys hate that I broke down Romans like that. But that's just your problem, because you don't really have understanding like that, because this really ain't for you. And a lot of you guys that say you're teaching it, a lot of you guys are just carnal. And you just going to learn the hard way. So I want to go to Romans real quick. Let's read Romans 7. Which Romans 7, all these chapters is breaking down the old and the new covenant, all the way from Galatians. The old covenant is the law of bondage. Guys are trying to teach the new covenant, telling you have to keep the old too, because they don't have no understanding of the new, which the new is superior to the old. The new and the old covenant are 2 totally different covenants, all right? And guys telling you that they're the same, that means that they don't understand this, and they're not of it. So they're bringing confusion. So we can see who guys are, because they don't have the understanding. This is Romans 7:1. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law have dominion over a man as long as he liveth. So he's speaking in the sense of the old covenant. This is likened unto the new covenant. But you got to understand, the new covenant is only for the ones that are chosen. You see, and the ones that are actually chosen, they're going to be hated. All right, cast out. And this was happening in the first century. Men, Paul was prosecuting, before he turned into Paul, he was prosecuting men that were teaching the new covenant, because a lot of people actually thought that the ones that believed in Yahushua, that they were leaving the old law of Moses out. This is why you had spies creeping in unaware trying to bring you back into that old law. Like guys are creeping into this new covenant, trying to bring the majority of you guys back in the old law. And a lot of you guys are the separation and the line has been drawn. For all you carnal guys of the world, you cannot understand that the new law is not the same as the old covenant. It is a new law. It's a spiritual law. It's not a carnal law. That's why you guys can't understand it, because the only reason you want to bring the new covenant, and you want to bring the old into the new covenant, is so you think you're justified by people seeing you in garments. And Matthew 6 cuts that shit about being seen. So we're dealing with guys that's trying to justify you to keep the old covenant. That's what we're dealing with. And this is what they were doing in Acts. So a lot of you don't even understand what was happening in Acts. Romans 7:2, it says, for a woman which hath an husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loose from the law of her husband. And this is Paul likening the old covenant to the new covenant for the ones that are of God, not for all of you. That's why all of you can't understand this, because this ain't really for you guys like that. So in the old law, if your husband died, then you'd be loose from your husband. The old law is dead, so we're loose. Us few are loose and are redeemed from that old law. Not all of us, not all of you, but certain of us that have understanding, and us that have understanding is only really few of us. So it says, so if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. Woo! But if her husband be dead, she is free from the law, so that there is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. That's why you're not supposed to mix the two. You're supposed to let it be known that the new law is superior to the old law. When the old law died, the temple went into. See, what was happening with that old law, it was being manipulated, and men could make you think that they're of God because they were doing all this shit in the flesh, and they showed you all this shit in the flesh. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with guys that's of the flesh, and they want to show you outwardly that they're of God. They're not understanding that the scriptures tell you in Romans 2 that you are a Jew when you are one inwardly, not one that is of the flesh, referring to the old law, which is of the flesh and sin. It says, wherefore, my brethren, ye also become dead to the law. Let's read that again. Wherefore, my brethren, ye also become dead to the law by the body of the anointed, that ye shall be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto God. Wherefore, my brethren, you became dead to the law by the body of the anointed. So we're dead to the old covenant law. Matter of fact, let's go to Galatians real quick. So what we're witnessing is, guys are of the flesh. They're of the old covenant. You have men that were of the bondwoman, then you have the men that were of the promise. The promise is the one of the elect. The majority of our people, they are the bondwoman. Like when Paul says there are many that are desolate in Galatians, them are the ones that are of the flesh, and they are the bondwoman. And there are few that have a husband. That's the few of us. Galatians 5:18. But if you led on the spirit of the spirit, ye are not under the law. So certain of us were born under the new covenant law, while the majority of you guys were born of the flesh, because you're not chosen. This is the clash that's happening in these times. You see? And so that's why guys are trying to keep you in the old covenant law, because they're of the old covenant law. heavy, bro. And The schoolmaster is the old covenant. That's why when the scriptures say when the Lord came, we're not under the schoolmaster, man. It is simple. Guys are trying to make it seem like we're still under the schoolmaster and we're in the new covenant too. No. You got to let that old covenant go. We're not under that old covenant like that, bro. I just read it. It's heavy. Galatians 2:16, knowing that no man is justified by the works of the law, the old covenant law, but by the faith that is in Yahushua HaMashiach, even we have believed in Yahushua HaMashiach that we might be justified in the faith of the anointed, and not by the works of the law, For by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. You see that? Man, this is heavy, bro. See, this ain't for everybody to understand like that, man. For real. Galatians 3:13, it's all over the new covenant, but it's only been unlocked to the ones that are of God. And the ones that are of the flesh, they're trying to use the old covenant so they could be justified of being seen and being in the flesh or getting tithes. Anything that really had to do with the flesh in this time and using the Bible for the flesh, you're of the flesh like that. You're of the flesh. And you can't understand that the new covenant have nothing to do with the old. Galatians 3:13, the anointed have redeemed us from the curse of the law. That old law is cursed. Especially when Moses told you that you have to follow Yahushua. So that's why when you go to Galatians, when you go to Romans 8, for to be carnally minded, that carnal minded covenant, that's what it is. All right. It's crazy, man. It is crazy. Romans 8:5. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh. That's why guys like to be seen in garments. That's why they want to keep the old law, because the old law, you could be seen in garments. You could do things in the flesh that make you justified. What guys don't understand is that us brothers that were born of Yahushua, that were promised, we're already of the new. So we're superior to the old law, and we're not under that bondage of the old law. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things after the flesh, but they are after the spirit do mind the things of the spirit. So the ones that were following Yahushua wasn't that many. And the ones that were following the churches and the camps and the world and their doctrine, that was of the many. So the Lord have what? Redeemed us. Now, I could break this down all day. It shows you guys don't have no fucking understanding. Let me read that again. Galatians 3:13. The anointed, Yahushua, have redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. It is written, curse is everyone that hangeth from a tree. So the Lord has redeemed us, the few. That's why the Lord said in John 17 right here, only the elect is redeemed and they have the understanding, and they're not under the old. They understand that the old and the new, they're separate. You can't mix the two. That's what guys are doing in the new covenant. They're mixing the old and the new, telling you that the old is the new, and you got to keep the old and the new. It's heavy, bro. John 17, they don't have no understanding. No understanding. John 17:9, I pray for them. I pray now for the world. Right, so the Lord praying for us in this time because we the ones that's going to have that understanding. I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them which thou hast given me, for they are thine. And all are thine, and thine are mine, and I am glorified in them. That's right. So the Lord is only glorified in the elect, the election of God. And that's who all this new covenant is for. It is for the election of God. Galatians 6:15. For in the anointed neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creature. For in Yahushua circumcision availeth no thing. Right, circumcision Because guys were telling you had to be circumcised in the flesh. So if you're circumcised or you're not circumcised, it don't avail of anything. That's keep reading. And as many that walk according to this rule, peace be on them and mercy upon the Israel of God. You hear that? From henceforth, let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of Yahushua HaMashiach. You see that? So, Yahushua, you don't have to be justified in the flesh to be of God. You don't have to be justified in the flesh to be of God. A lot of you guys are looking to be justified in the flesh to prove that you're of God. And what's being proven is you really don't even have that understanding like that. A lot of you guys are cursed. So now when you go to Galatians 1, which the brother got a beautiful breakdown. So the gospel that Paul and them were teaching, that the old ministration is the old ministration of death and condemnation. The new covenant is the ministration of reconciliation. So you're not supposed to mix the two together. You're supposed to make it clear that the new covenant is superior to the old covenant. And when Yahushua came, we are not, like the scriptures say, we are not under that law. The Lord has freed us, has redeemed the elect from the curse of the law. All right? This is what you got to understand. So a lot of you guys don't have no fucking understanding. Let's go back to Romans 7 and 5. So what's happening is you're seeing what the scripture says beats what guys are saying. The elect are redeemed. Now, if you feel like you still have to keep that old law, that means you're not of the elect. You're carnal, and you're showing it. Romans 7 and 4. So that old law, it died. And when that old law died, the elect are not under that curse of the law. For the majority of our people that were cut off in Zechariah 13 and 8, they don't have nothing to do with the new covenant. So you got guys crept in when we could see guys way before they started acting like this, that they really didn't have nothing to do with it. We just were trying to see was guys gonna come along and understand it. But what we're seeing is that guys, what we already seen is that certain guys wasn't of it. We were just trying to see if guys were gonna come around, and that's why we've been separating ourselves from guys, because guys really they're really not a part of it. But it's good guys teaching it, but they're teaching you that you have to keep the old law of Moses too. Then they're going off. So a lot of guys are cursed. They're still cursed. They're cursed. That's keeping you in bondage because they're of the old law. Us brothers, we've been free from the old law, so we're not telling you that this has to do with Moses. You have to keep Moses this, and you have to be seen in this. Nothing in the flesh is justifying you. Romans 7 and 4. Wherefore, my brethren, ye are also become dead to the law by the body of the anointed. Ye are also become dead to the law by the body of Yahushua. So we're dead to that old law. A lot of you guys that are living for that old law, you're of that old law. So you're of condemnation. You're of death. You're of sin. There is no sin for those that are actually born of God, that believe in God. You're justified through your belief. All they that believe are justified. All them that believe are justified. Not all them that are holding the old law of Moses are justified. We're free from that. Romans 7 and 4. Wherefore, my brother, ye are also become dead to the law by the body of the anointed, that ye should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit. For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death. But now we are delivered from the law, being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve the newness of the Spirit and not the oldness of the letter. So we're not serving that old law. So let's go back to this real quick. So guys, don't have no understanding in this time. Let's go to Romans 2. So guys, they don't really have the understanding like that. They don't. Romans 2:28. For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly. Exactly. So guys, being seen outwardly, this is what Paul meant. Because you had guys of the old, they were teaching the old to keep men in that old law so they could keep them in bondage, so they could keep getting tithes or just keep ruling over them. That's why I'm saying certain of us, a few of us were born after the new covenant, and the new covenant laws are in us. That's why Ezekiel said, I give you a new spirit and a new heart, because certain of us were born of the new covenant. A lot of you guys were born after the old covenant. So now you see us teaching the new covenant, and by you naturally being of the old covenant, you're trying to mix the old covenant with the new covenant and try to make it seem like you have to keep the old covenant too. No, Paul said we're not under the bondage of the old law. It's talking about the law, man. It breaks down beautifully in Romans 7. And right here too. So that old law is dead when Yahushua came. Heavy. Matter of fact, what was that? Romans 10. Romans 10:4. For the anointed is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth. For the anointed is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth. There you go. So Romans 2:29. So guys that don't really understand this, they're not of God. If they bringing Moses into this, they don't have the understanding of the new covenant. So I advise you brothers that can understand, get away from guys that are mixing the old with the new. Get away from guys that can't get over this Moses hump. It's like guys are sprung out on drugs or some shit. You know, it's like they sprung out over Moses. Romans 2:28. For he is a Jew which is one outwardly. There is neither that which is outward in the flesh, but he that is a Jew which is one inwardly. And the circumcisions of the heart and in the spirit, and not in the latter, whose praise is not of men, but of God, bro. So guys don't understand this because they're trying to keep you in the old law. So let me get out of here. I want to get through John 10, but I had to get through this because a lot of you guys, you're not understanding that the old law has nothing to do with the new covenant. And a lot of you that can't understand that, the Lord don't want you to understand that. He wants you to be against us so he could destroy your ass. And when the Lord destroy you guys, then you're going to understand that you were actually against us, brothers, that were teaching you right. We were only telling you that the old law has nothing to do with the new covenant, and God's calling us all types of names. God's telling us we're breaking the scriptures down wrong when they didn't know anything about a new covenant. They think the new covenant is an extension of the old. The new covenant is new, is different. They're different covenants. All right, the Lord brought something different. So let me get out of here. I'll speak with you brothers a little bit later. You brothers repent to the new covenant and separate yourself from these guys that are carnal of the new covenant, man. You have to, because the guys are double-minded and they're mixing the old with the new, and they're of the old, so they're trying to keep to the old so they could be justified of being seen. Hey, and with that, man, let me get out of here. Hey, repent to the new covenant. And you brothers that are of the new, you can understand the new has nothing to do with the old. With that, hey, shalom.